Dragon movies are one of the most popular directions in fantasy cinema. Of course, those winged lizards have such a rich folklore past. I really love fantasy and dragon movies too. That's why I've gathered the best dragon movies into one video. I think in this video I'll mention all the good ones. Yeah, they have their minuses and I can criticize them, but the pluses in each definitely outweigh the downsides. The history of dragons in movies is closely tied to the ability to bring these creatures to the screen. Basically, as models, stop-motion animation, animatronics, puppets, and computer graphics evolved, so did the dragons we saw. The first dragons actually appeared in silent films as puppets or mechanical models. One of the earliest examples is Fritz Lang's 1924 movie Nibelungen, where a dragon was created using a mechanical model. That was a real breakthrough for special effects at the time. For most of the 20th century, dragons mainly showed up in animation with varying quality. One of the most striking and impressive dragons came from Disney's Sleeping Beauty in 1959, where the evil sorceress Maleficent transforms into a dragon. In the second half of the last century, stop-motion animation technology took off, letting filmmakers create not just drawn dragons, but ones that looked pretty realistic. A big leap happened with the 1984 movie The NeverEnding Story, where the dragon Falcor was brought to life using a mix of animatronics and practical effects. That was one of the first truly convincing dragons in movies. Then, in the 90s, computer graphics kicked into high gear. In 1996, Dragonheart came out, featuring a winged beast that was entirely computer-generated for the first time. With the rise of technology, it's not just about realism. Dragons themselves have changed, from purely antagonistic creatures to more complex characters. From mechanical models to photorealistic CGI creations. From silent monsters to personalities with their own character. From fairy tale beings to scientifically grounded creatures with detailed anatomy and physiology. That's enough history for now. Let's finally dive into the best dragon movies.
Attention all units. We're eastbound on Millhaven Road in pursuit of a dragon! It's a dragon! You can't say dragon over the radio.
Pete's Dragon. It's a movie that's decent in parts, but disgustingly sappy. The story follows a boy lost in the forest, surviving harsh conditions thanks to a fantastic creature. One day, people from a nearby town find him and try to figure out what happened to the kid. It's kind of a mix between Tarzan and Mowgli. The music is overly sweet, and so are the characters and dialogue. It's so cheesy and unnatural that watching this Disney flick can feel like a slog. The one saving grace is the stunning locations, cinematography, and camera work. The New Zealand forest where it was filmed is pure magic. Technically, the movie is actually pretty well made, and as a kid's movie, it probably works fine. Plus, the cast has some great actors, but their solid performances don't really save it. The writers set up the potential for a Pixar-level story, but the execution falls flat.
The only problems are the pests. You see, most places have mice or mosquitoes. We have dragons.
How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, it's an animated movie, but it's absolutely incredible. The animation quality is so high that at times it feels like real life. A live-action adaptation came out, but it's a shot-for-shot remake of the original, so there's no point diving into it. This is a trilogy of full-length animated movies from DreamWorks. It tells the story of a friendship between an unusual, mysterious dragon and a young Viking from a dragon-slaying village. It's a coming-of-age tale for both of them. The first movie is brilliant, the sequel holds up well, and the third wraps up the story solidly. This is an undeniable masterpiece for the ages. On top of that, the series boasts stunning visuals. Those dragon flight scenes are just breathtaking. No words needed.
Make Gorbash ready for the journey to the Temple of All Antiquity.
I wish I could carry you, old friend.
No, you've served me well in the past. Let young Gorbash bear your burdens now.
And since I've started talking about animation, I can't skip the charming 1982 animated movie, The Flight of Dragons. It's a classic good versus evil story with a surprising depth of meaning beneath the surface. I don't have any nostalgia for this one. I watched it just yesterday, so I can see the script's flaws, the convenient plot devices, and the simple, though vibrant, animation. It's a naive children's fairy tale, but it's insanely charming and heartfelt. It even has some darker moments. And the music? Super catchy and memorable, creating real magic as you watch.
Give away the one thing that could have saved you. And that gift will be the death of your son.
You are a slave to darkness, Mother Malkin.
Seventh Son, a Hollywood movie directed by Sergei Bodrov. It's a fantasy flick, but it's not exactly about dragons. Here, the local villains can turn into dragons, though they don't use that trick much. The movie's got one thing going for it: technical execution. The landscapes are gorgeous, the sets, costumes, and special effects are top-notch. But the downsides pile up. Terrible acting from a killer cast. Jeff Bridges, Julianne Moore, Ben Barnes, and Alicia Vikander are here, but only Vikander seems to try. Then there's the dumb, forgettable, and painfully cliched story. It's about a monster hunter and his apprentice. Worst of all, it lacks that fantasy vibe. It's just a boring movie, worth watching only for a few pretty scenes.
They'll run us down long before then. Thanks to that, we're going slower than a snail's pace.
Maybe we should head towards the mountains.
Pack it in, Rin.
No, we have to stay near the lake in case it hatches.
George and the Dragon, a 2004 adventure comedy fantasy movie set in a medieval world. The setting, by the way, feels really authentic. They put a lot of effort into the costumes and environments. It's a story about a knight returning from the Crusades, hoping for a quiet, peaceful life, but circumstances force him to set off in search of a missing princess. Let's be real, the movie's pretty meh. The graphics are SOSO. The script is weak. The humor's kind of weird, but it's got its funny moments. The story itself is interesting though. The character interactions are pretty cool, too. They're charmingly sweet and noble. Whether you're a traitor or a princess, you know all about honor and chivalry. And there's a big plus, the cast. James Purefoy plays the lead, and he's fantastic, really carrying the whole thing. Plus, you've got Patrick Swayze and Michael Clark Duncan in there.
Trivial matters like weddings to attend to?
Yes, your correspondence made mention of some particulars you wish to discuss in person.
The two of us can confer in private.
Damsel, a super vibrant and gorgeous big-budget 2024 Netflix blockbuster costing $70 million, with Millie Bobby Brown in the lead role. A young princess is married off for political reasons, but it turns out the new family needs her as a sacrifice to a dragon. They perform the ritual, and now the girl has to survive in the depths of a cave from a bloodthirsty, intelligent lizard. In terms of visual effects and locations, the movie really delivers. The dragon is done amazingly well, top-notch, using all the budget and modern tech. The plot and script turned out pretty solid too. Even though it's a standard survival story, there are no contrived plot devices, and the intrigue and fear for the heroine keep you hooked the whole time. And honestly, if you think about it, it's a great fantasy flick. Maybe because the genre doesn't get many new entries these days.
You can hear my thoughts.
I have waited 1,000 years to hear your thoughts, and now you can hear mine. I am Saphira, and you are my right.
Eragon, an adaptation of the novel of the same name. They say the book's pretty good, but the movie? Kinda meh. Thankfully, the dragon turned out awesome. The creators spared no effort or cash to make the beast feel alive and unique. The filming locations are gorgeous too, really well chosen. But the casting? Yeah, they kinda dropped the ball there. The only one who nails his role is Jeremy Irons. The creators messed up a bunch of things, including how they showed the dragon's thoughts. The bond between the writer and his winged companion could have been done way better. The story feels choppy, with events barely connected to each other. If you think about it, the movie doesn't have many strengths. It's carried by the technical execution and Jeremy Irons. His character and his acting are top-notch. The story itself is interesting, but the movie doesn't do it justice. You end up filling in the gaps yourself.
Долго шел он по земле и по воде в поисках змея. Но когда нашел он драконье логово, Оказалось, что он опоздал, и любимой его больше нет.
I Am Dragon. Surprisingly solid Russian romantic fantasy. It's an adaptation of the novel The Ritual by the Dyachenko duo. In some far-off kingdom, there was a dragon, and the townsfolk had a tradition of offering its sacrifices, brides, to be exact. Eventually, a dragon was defeated, and over time, the sacrificial ritual turned into a wedding ceremony. But they didn't count on there being more than one dragon. During a princess's wedding, someone recklessly sings a summoning song, and bam, the dragon snatches the bride. Think of it as a twist on Twilight meets Beauty and the Beast. It's super stylish and honestly filmed really well. The visuals are top tier. You'd be hard-pressed to name another Russian fantasy flick that looks this good, maybe only The Last Bogatyr. The special effects are solid too, especially the dragon, which is entirely CGI. The creators said they tried having an actor play the dragon, but it didn't work out. With an $18 million budget, big for Russian cinema, the graphics are impressive. They put real effort into the reptile. Its anatomy makes sense, and the detailing is meticulous. It's not a timeless masterpiece, but it's a damn good movie.
That's so good. Thank you. So, little fella, you're on your way to the Southern Oracle?
The NeverEnding Story, a wonderful children's fairy tale. There's not much dragon in it, but he's there as the main character's companion, and that's enough. Honestly, he's more like a giant flying dog, but everyone calls him a dragon. From what I gather, in the original book this is based on, the dragon Falker looked a bit different. They built the dragon life-sized, a 15-meter puppet with a 100-kilogram head featuring 16 moving parts, controlled by a whole team of operators. They also used a smaller 40-centimeter model, crafted as an exact replica of the big puppet down to the tiniest details. That model took 6 months to make. For many, The NeverEnding Story is a childhood classic, and for good reason. It's a seemingly simple, straightforward movie, but it's so charmingly made that it's practically a must-watch. The story follows a boy who reads a magical book and gets completely immersed in its world. Released in 1984, the movie still holds up visually even today. And the story itself? Truly never-ending, the themes it raises feel like they'll always be relevant. The movie was a hit with audiences and critics alike, but with a $27 million budget, huge for the time, it only pulled in $20 million at the box office.
I did not come to steal from you. Oh, Smaug, the unaccessibly wealthy. I merely wanted to gaze upon your magnificence, to see if you really were as great as the old tales say.
The Hobbit. There's plenty to criticize about Jackson's second Middle-earth trilogy, and the list isn't short. The Hobbit falls way short of The Lord of the Rings. The final film, in particular, turned out pretty weak. Stretching a short children's book into 3 big movies was probably a mistake. But one thing the creators absolutely nailed is the dragon, brought to life brilliantly by Benedict Cumberbatch. The winged beast looks flawless, and Cumberbatch's facial expressions are captured so meticulously that you can unmistakably see his face in the dragon's mug. The filmmakers did a solid job adapting Tolkien's winged lizard while adding a few touches of their own. The creature comes off as menacing, terrifying, and awe-inspiring. There's no doubt this beast could keep an entire region in fear. And its death? That could easily be the defining event for generations.
Snails, there's one more small problem.
Problem? What's the problem, really?
I kinda committed us to find it.
Dungeons and Dragons. An adaptation of the tabletop game Dungeons and Dragons. It's basically a linear RPG with no real plot twists, just a squad of heroes tackling typical game-style quests. Magic, elves, dwarves, and all that classic D and D stuff, thieves guilds and the like, are all there. Overall, it's a pretty mediocre movie, partly because it leans hard into that pre-Jackson fantasy style with super simplistic characters and story. The actors don't help much either. Even Jeremy Irons as the antagonist can't save it. But as an adventure flick, it's honestly pretty solid. Great atmosphere, interesting plot. The downsides outweigh the UPS, but there's crazy potential for filling in the blanks in your head. This is one of those movies that desperately needed a big budget remake with a good director and strong actors.
Want to make it angry? When I say so, everybody goes underwater, and that'll be your cue, Simon, all right? What are you looking at?
A harper, shaking off his slumber.
And it happened. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves in 2023, starring Chris Pine. There's a dragon in it too, though it's got a smaller role in the plot, but the movie is awesome regardless. It's hands down the best fantasy film in years. The atmosphere is just as fantastic as in the 2000 version, but the story and visuals are way better. The characters and the 4 actors playing them are especially great. Sure, I might have wanted a slightly more epic, sprawling story, but that's just my personal wish. It's a shame the movie flopped at the box office, so we won't get a sequel.
I'd say you get used to them, but you never really do.
Game of Thrones. Okay, it's obviously a series, not a movie, but it's worth talking about. Especially since we've got 2 seasons of the spin-off now, with way more dragons. And honestly, these might just be the coolest dragons ever put on screen. The creators poured tons of effort and resources into crafting these winged beasts. They drew inspiration from crocodiles, lizards, bats, and even toads. The dragons themselves are always CGI, but the flight scenes were shot using a special rig, and the fire, that was real. In House of the Dragon, the creators went all out, giving us a whole roster of unique dragons, each one done brilliantly.
What about you? I got the north. Alex, I need you to stay right here. Now when Quinn and I make a move, it's gonna draw him off, and I don't think this son of a bitch can count.
Reign of Fire, a big budget blockbuster from 2002. This movie's got plenty of highs and lows. The story unfolds in the near future, where dragons, once dormant deep in the earth, wake up, multiply, and show humanity who's boss, wiping out most of the planet's population. The surviving scraps of humankind are forced to scrape by in a brutal post-apocalyptic world, constantly on edge for attacks from winged beasts. Overall, it's a super mixed bag. On one hand, the concept is awesome. On the other, the execution kinda falls short. It doesn't quite nail the hopeless vibe of a post-apocalyptic wasteland, even though you can tell the creators tried hard to pull it off. But the movie sticks with you. It's packed with cool moments that'll stay in your head for a long time. Some plot twists, though, vanish from your memory just as fast. All in all, it's fun to watch, and it leaves a pretty good aftertaste. Starring Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey. The film, which cost a hefty $60 million back then, got slammed by critics, didn't quite click with audiences, and pulled in $82 million at the box office.
See what they tried? He survived. Him. He's our king.
That's a good point.
Believe me. Trust me. He can do it.
Galgameth. A nice little children's fairy tale about the battle between good and evil. Don't expect any grand scale or epic vibes here. The villain is cartoonishly evil just because he's evil. The good guys are good just because they're good. I guess that's how it should be for a kid's movie. The story follows a young prince forced to flee his castle and go into hiding after his father, the king, is betrayed and killed. Honestly, it's a great story and an incredibly atmospheric piece. It's got just 2 real flaws. First, the main character's excessive naivety in the first third of the movie is super annoying. He's supposed to be 14, but he doesn't even know which end of a sword to hold. That's a bit much for a prince, if you ask me. That's the only major downside. The second flaw is the awful graphics, but for a low-budget flick, that's forgivable. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a charming movie that doesn't pretend to be anything more than it is, nor should it.
I don't want to kill you. I never did. And I don't want you to kill me. How do we gain? If you win, you lose a trade. If I win, I wait around for the next sword slinger thirsting to carve a reputation out of my hide.
Dragonheart, a sweet, naive fairy tale from 1996. Fantasy films before the early 2000s were generally pretty lighthearted and not too serious. That is, until Jackson came along and showed everyone how it's done with his Lord of the Rings adaptation. Still, Dragonheart stands a cut above most pre-Jackson fairy tales. The movie tells the story of a noble knight who hunts dragons, but ends up forming a tight bond with one of his fire-breathing foes. With a budget of nearly $60 million, a hefty sum for the time, the movie's technical side really shines. The creators nailed the winged beast. The graphics still hold up pretty well today, even if they're noticeably dated. But for 1996, it's an impressive feat it earned an Oscar nomination for Best Visual Effects, and deservedly so. Beyond the visuals, they managed to make the dragon a compelling, noble character, voiced by Sean Connery. The costumes and sets are top-notch too. Sure, the story's pretty small scale, unfolding in just a couple of locations, and the direction doesn't hold up under scrutiny, but the movie's still awesome and memorable. Hands down, it's the best dragon movie out there.